Listen closely. The moment you give someone too much space in your mind, you begin to shrink your own life. Your energy is sacred, your attention is powerful, and yet, so many people give it away freely thinking, replaying, overanalyzing, waiting, hoping, doubting until their own purpose fades into the background. Today is a reminder, not to harden your heart, but to reclaim your mind. Your attention is not something small or ordinary, it is the most valuable currency you possess. Every thought you repeat, every image you hold, every story you replay is shaping the direction of your life, whether you realize it or not. It is energy, and energy is creation. What you focus on grows stronger, more detailed, more dominant in your reality. When your attention is scattered, your power is scattered. When your attention is disciplined, your life becomes disciplined. This is why reclaiming your attention is not a mindset trick. It is a decision to take your life seriously. Most people give their attention away without realizing the cost. They wake up thinking about others, move through the day reacting to others, and fall asleep, replaying moments that already passed. This constant outward focus slowly erodes inner strength. The mind becomes noisy, restless, and exhausted, not because life is too demanding, but because attention is being misused. When attention is placed outside for too long, the self begins to feel empty, unstable, and uncertain. This is not weakness, it is misdirection. The moment you stop placing your attention on things that do not serve your growth, a powerful shift begins. Your mind starts to quiet. Your emotions settle. Your decisions become clearer. This is because attention is the steering wheel of the mind. Wherever it turns, the entire system follows. A distracted mind produces a distracted life. A focused mind produces progress. Focus is not about forcing concentration. It is about choosing what deserves your energy and what does not. When attention is placed on purpose, discipline becomes easier. You no longer need motivation every day because your mind knows where it is going. Training your attention is like training a muscle. At first, it resists. It pulls back toward old habits, old patterns, old emotional loops. But with consistency, it becomes obedient. You begin to notice when your thoughts drift, and instead of judging yourself, you gently pull them back. This is mastery. This is control without aggression. Attention also determines emotional stability. When your mind constantly monitors others, emotions rise and fall uncontrollably. Joy becomes fragile. Confidence becomes conditional. Peace becomes temporary. But when attention is anchored within, emotions become steady. You respond instead of react. You observe instead of absorb. This does not make you cold, it makes you grounded. Grounded people are not easily shaken because their power is not outsourced. Think of attention as a beam of light. Wherever it shines, it illuminates and energizes. Shine it on fear, and fear grows clearer and louder. Shine it on doubt, and doubt becomes convincing. Shine it on growth, and growth accelerates. This is why awareness alone is not enough. Direction matters. You must consciously decide what deserves your light. Not everything that appears loud deserves your focus. Not everything that demands attention deserves your energy. When you redirect attention toward self-mastery, life begins to organize itself. You start noticing your habits, your routines, your inner dialogue. You become aware of how you speak to yourself, how you treat your time, how you manage discomfort. This awareness creates responsibility, and responsibility creates strength. Strong people are not those with perfect lives. They are those who manage their attention even when life is imperfect. There is also freedom in this discipline. When attention is no longer scattered, the mind feels spacious. You are no longer mentally crowded. Silence becomes comfortable. Solitude becomes nourishing. You begin to enjoy your own presence because your mind is not constantly pulling you outward. This is where confidence quietly forms. Not the loud kind that seeks approval, but the calm kind that knows its direction. Reclaiming attention is also an act of self-respect. It says, my time matters, my energy matters, my inner world matters. It is a refusal to live reactively. It is a commitment to live deliberately. Every time you choose where to place your focus, you are voting for the kind of person you are becoming. These votes accumulate. Over time, they shape character, discipline, and destiny. The world constantly competes for attention. Noise is everywhere. Distractions are endless. Emotional triggers are easily accessible. This makes attention control one of the most valuable skills of modern life. Those who master it move ahead quietly, while others remain mentally exhausted. They build while others consume. They create while others react. Not because they are superior, but because they are intentional. When attention returns to your goals, your health, your learning, and your inner alignment, something powerful happens. You stop feeling behind, you stop comparing, you stop rushing, you move at your own pace with clarity. Progress becomes consistent rather than chaotic. Even setbacks feel manageable, because your focus is stable. This is why attention is power, not because it makes you dominant over others, but because it makes you sovereign over yourself. And self-sovereignty is the foundation of any meaningful success, because a mind that can be directed cannot be easily controlled by circumstances, emotions, or external chaos. Overthinking others is often disguised as care, loyalty, or emotional depth, but in reality it is a quiet form of self-neglect. It pulls your awareness away from your own needs and places it in a space where you have little control. The mind becomes busy analyzing words, action, silences, and possibilities, while your own growth waits patiently in the background. Nothing drains energy faster than investing emotional effort where it cannot be directed or resolved. When you overthink someone, your inner dialogue shifts from creation to reaction. Instead of asking how you can improve, learn, or strengthen yourself, the mind asks endless questions about intentions, meanings, and outcomes. This loop feels productive, but it produces nothing. It creates mental fatigue without clarity. Over time, this fatigue becomes emotional heaviness, and emotional heaviness becomes a loss of motivation toward your own life. Self-neglect does not always look like giving up on responsibilities. Often, it looks like functioning well on the surface while being disconnected inside. You may continue to work, study, and socialize, but your mental presence is elsewhere. Your attention is divided, and divided attention weakens everything it touches. When you are not fully present with yourself, even achievements feel empty. Even progress feels delayed. This is the hidden cost of overthinking others. There is also a subtle erosion of self-worth that happens when the mind constantly revolves around someone else. The more you analyze another person, the more importance you unconsciously assign to them. Their reactions begin to feel like measurements of your value. Their distance feels like rejection. Their approval feels like relief. This emotional dependency is not intentional, but it grows silently, and with it, your sense of inner authority slowly fades. Overthinking others often comes from the belief that clarity will bring peace. The mind convinces itself that if it just understands more, thinks harder, or figures things out completely, everything will settle. But peace does not come from solving people. People are not puzzles to be completed. Peace comes from self-alignment. When your actions match your values and your attention supports your growth, clarity follows naturally. As long as the mind is preoccupied with others, self-reflection becomes shallow. You stop asking the deeper questions. Are you living in alignment with your potential? Are you disciplined with your time? Are you developing skills that will support your future? These questions require honesty and effort, which the mind often avoids by staying busy with external focus. Overthinking becomes an escape from self-responsibility. There is also the habit of emotional postponement. When you overthink others, you unconsciously delay your own healing. You wait for closure, explanations, or validation before moving forward. Life becomes paused. Decisions are delayed. Growth is put on hold. But waiting for emotional permission from the outside is one of the most common ways people remain stuck. Healing begins when you decide to move forward regardless of unanswered questions. The energy spent overthinking could be used to strengthen the body, sharpen the mind, or build stability. But instead, it circulates in the same mental patterns, producing no return. This is why overthinking feels exhausting without being productive. It consumes without creating. And when this pattern continues, resentment quietly forms, not always toward others, but toward life itself. Choosing to stop overthinking others is not about becoming indifferent. It is about becoming responsible for your own well-being. It is about recognizing that your inner world requires care, attention, and boundaries. Just as you would not allow someone to constantly interrupt your physical work, you must not allow constant mental interruptions to disrupt your inner balance. As attention returns inward, something important becomes clear. You begin to notice how much of your life was being lived in anticipation rather than intention. You see how often your mood depended on imagined outcomes. This awareness can feel uncomfortable at first, but discomfort is the beginning of change. Growth does not come from comfort. It comes from clarity. When you redirect energy back to yourself, self-trust begins to rebuild. You become more aware of your needs, your limits, and your strengths. Decisions become simpler because they are no longer filtered through emotional noise. You stop needing constant reassurance because you are no longer abandoning yourself internally. Overthinking others keeps you mentally busy, but inner work makes you mentally strong. Strength does not mean having fewer emotions. It means being able to hold them without losing direction. As you develop this strength, your mind becomes a place of support rather than conflict. You begin to feel whole again, not because everything is resolved externally, but because you are no longer fragmented internally. Self-neglect ends the moment you decide that your thoughts, energy, and time deserve intention. The moment you choose to invest inward, you begin reclaiming parts of yourself that were scattered across worries, assumptions, and imagined scenarios. This reclamation is not dramatic, but it is powerful because it restores the foundation on which confidence, clarity, and long-term fulfillment are built. Inner independence is the quiet strength that changes everything. It is the ability to stand steady within yourself, regardless of what is happening around you. When your peace no longer depends on how others behave, respond, or perceive you, confidence stops being fragile. It becomes grounded, stable, and deeply rooted. This kind of confidence is not built through praise or approval. It is built through self-mastery. Many people believe confidence comes from being liked, chosen, or validated. But that version of confidence is temporary and easily shaken. The moment approval disappears, doubt rushes in. Inner independence frees you from this cycle. It teaches you to source stability from within rather than borrowing it from the outside. When you are internally anchored, external shifts no longer control your emotional state. Inner independence begins with responsibility. You take ownership of your emotions instead of blaming circumstances or people. You recognize that while you cannot control everything that happens, you can always control how you respond. This awareness alone creates strength. It transforms you from a passive participant in life into an active decision maker. You stop asking why things affect you so deeply and start asking how you can remain centered regardless. As this independence grows, emotional reactions lose their intensity. You still feel disappointment, frustration, or sadness, but these emotions no longer define you. They pass through rather than take over. You observe them without becoming consumed. This ability to remain present without being overwhelmed is one of the clearest signs of inner power. With independence comes clarity. Decisions become simpler because they are no longer influenced by fear of loss or need for approval. You choose based on alignment, not attachment. You act because it feels right, not because you are trying to secure something externally. This clarity brings calm confidence, the kind that does not need to explain itself. Inner independence also strengthens boundaries. You become comfortable saying no without guilt and yes without hesitation. You understand that boundaries are not walls, they are structures that protect your energy. When your boundaries are clear, relationships become healthier and interactions become lighter. You no longer feel drained because you are no longer overextending yourself emotionally. Another powerful shift happens in how you perceive challenges. Instead of seeing difficulties as threats to your worth, you see them as opportunities to refine your strength. Inner independence allows you to face discomfort without collapsing. You trust yourself to handle whatever comes next. This trust is built through consistency, through keeping promises to yourself, and through showing up even when motivation fades. As your independence deepens, comparison loses its grip. You stop measuring your progress against others because your focus is internal. You understand that everyone walks a different path, at a different pace, with different lessons. This understanding removes unnecessary pressure and replaces it with patience. Progress becomes personal rather than competitive. Confidence rooted in independence is quiet but powerful. It does not announce itself. It does not seek attention. It is felt in the way you move, speak, and decide. People sense it not because you demand respect, but because you embody self-respect. This confidence attracts naturally because it is not trying to impress. Inner independence also changes how you experience solitude. Being alone no longer feels empty or uncomfortable. It becomes a space for reflection, renewal, and growth. You enjoy your own company because your mind is not filled with unresolved dependence. Solitude becomes a source of strength rather than something to escape. This independence does not make you detached or cold. It allows you to connect without losing yourself. You can care deeply without becoming dependent. You can support others without neglecting your own needs. This balance is rare, and it is what makes inner independence so powerful. As you continue building this foundation, resilience becomes natural. Setbacks do not derail you because your sense of self is not tied to outcomes. You recover faster, learn quicker, and move forward with less resistance. Life feels lighter, not because it is easier, but because you are stronger within it. Inner independence is built through daily discipline, through choosing growth over comfort, through listening to your inner voice even when it challenges you, through staying aligned with your values even when it would be easier not to. Each of these choices strengthens the connection you have with yourself. Over time, this connection becomes unshakable. You trust your instincts. You honor your boundaries. You respect your energy. Confidence becomes your natural state, not something you have to generate. You stand firm without rigidity and open without losing balance, moving through life with calm authority and steady presence.